Hey Jazz fans, how are you? Tom Manuel here, the president and founder of the Jazz Loft in Stony Brook Village, Long Island, New York, the East Coast's only venue solely dedicated to the preservation, performance, and education of the American-born art form called jazz. Normally, when I've done these behind-the-scenes episodes, I always say, greetings from the Jazz Loft, but as you can see from behind me, we are not at the Jazz Loft, and not only are we not at the Jazz Loft, we are not on Long Island anymore. We are in the Berkshires up in Lenox, Massachusetts, and this is a special on-the-road episode where we are celebrating heroes of jazz and specifically talking about one of the secret hotspots of jazz in the 20th century. I'm on the site of what was formerly the Music Inn, a very, very special place back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And a little bit of history, it was in 1946 that a Countess de Herdia passed away. She sold a mansion that's just down the road here called Wheatley. Her father built it in 1895. It was a 25-acre estate with a lot of other outbuildings, and it was sold to the Boston Symphony Orchestra around 1949 and used as a dormitory for the students. And a wonderful couple by the name of Philip and Stephanie Barber bought the remaining acreage and outbuildings, an outhouse, stables, and a barn. And they built a wonderful, wonderful place to celebrate and study jazz music. To give you a little bit of the history to understand, they bought this property in 1950. To give you an idea of just how amazing that was back then, it was in 1945 that the Berklee School of Music was founded. It wasn't until 1947 that at the University of North Texas we had the first program granting degrees in jazz studies. They were having jazz festivals here that were several weeks long as early as 1950 and 51, and you know, that was so groundbreaking. It wasn't until 1954 that George Wein had the first jazz festival at Newport. The list of musicians that were here, just to name a few: Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Sarah Vaughan, Alan Lomax, Langston Hughes, Louis Armstrong, Billie Holiday, Ella Fitzgerald, Dave Brubeck and his quartet, Miles Davis, the Modern Jazz Quartet, Bobby Brookmeyer, Teddy Charles, John Lewis, Mahalia Jackson, Dizzy Gillespie, as well as the Kingston Trio, Pete Seeger, Van Morrison. The list went on and on and on. There were beboppers, there were folk singers, there were African drummers, blues singers, poets, jazz legends, musicologists. They would have the concerts and then the very next morning have wonderful roundtable discussions discussing the origins of jazz and the music they had heard the night before. When the Music Inn opened in 1950, it was during a very conformist and conservative environment. Integration and diversity were certainly concepts of the future. Tanglewood, just up the road, believe it or not, had a dress code still for ladies. If any ladies showed up in skirts or slacks, they were given these shawls to cover up with. Pete Seeger was turned away from performing in the area because he was believed to be a communist. Jews could not find lodging in the Berkshires, and people of color, well, forget about it. So the heroes that we celebrate, Philip and Stephanie Barber. Philip was a public relations executive in the city, and his wife, Stephanie, was a fashion journalist. They were absolutely forward thinkers, and it's amazing to think that right here on this ground where we stand was some of the first true appreciation of the American-born art form called jazz. This is right where it happened back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And so we celebrate some heroes in jazz. We celebrate Philip and Stephanie Barber, and we continue to celebrate and uplift our American-born art form called jazz. And so, another episode of Behind the Scenes on the road, direct to you from Lenox, Massachusetts, the former site of the Music Inn and the Lenox School of Jazz. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.